So whether you love Nintendo or whether you hate Nintendo, or I guess whether if you're in the middle of loving or hating Nintendo, one thing that nobody can deny is that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been a massive success at launch for Nintendo. They have reported that 3.5 million units were sold in the first 4 days on the marketplace, making it the biggest video game console launch and the fastest video game console launch of all time. And that is no easy feat, especially in the era that we live in now. But Nintendo managed to do this. Now, of course, there's been some reporting about Nintendo selling 3 million in the first 24 hours. I don't really believe that, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it was probably more like 2.5 million because, I mean, 500,000 sold in the 3 days after the first 24 hours seems a little bit weird. But whether you believe that or not, obviously, it has been a massive, massive success, and that's going to draw the eye of other companies and, of course, the armpit of other companies, the investors in these companies. Now, Sony had a little Q&A with some shareholders talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. Some questions were asked about the system, and some concerns were raised by people that are invested in Sony about how PlayStation is going to handle the Nintendo Switch 2 situation and whether or not there is a threat looming on the horizon with this. Now, PlayStation is a company that's in a very interesting position because I feel like this games as a service route kind of didn't work out for them. But now they're kind of saying that, like, oh, we're still going to do stuff like that. And in this investor thing, they also talked about PlayStation 6. There's a lot of different things to unpack with that conversation that they had. Most things I wasn't a huge fan of. But you can't deny that, at least so far with Sony in 2025, it seems like the first-party output is going to be a little bit on the softer side. You know, we know about Ghost of Yotei coming out this year, and that's kind of it right now. You know, there's a lot of questions going on with games in development, you know, how far along these games are, whether or not some of these games as a service will see the light of day as well. It's a bit of a transition period. I did really enjoy that Marvel fighting game, though, that they showed off at the State of Play. I just wish there was some more first-party support. Well, in this Q&A, some questions were asked by investors who I honestly feel like ruined the video game industry, and that's a speech I could go on another time, but the too long didn't read is now you're not just making money for yourself and your company and funding your projects. Now you're having to make money for these idiots who don't really know anything about video games. They're just looking at this from a business perspective and trying to put money into this company, not because they want to help the company, but because they want to make money back on that investment. So it's not a positive thing. It's led to the glamorization and the overinflation of the video game industry. But within this Q&A, one of the questions asked was, some investors are concerned that the improved specs of Switch 2 and Nintendo's improved relationships with third-party publishers will lead to tougher competition for PlayStation in the next few years. What do you think of those concerns? And in this, the individual speaking on this was Hideki Nishino. I don't know if I'm saying his first name right, but we could say Nishino because I can read that rather well. We closely monitor the overall gaming industry, including the action of other market participants. Additionally, a catalyst in the market is great for the industry as a whole. As they invigorate excitement, they demand more product, so it is great to have people launching new things. As I mentioned previously, we have a different strategy. PlayStation 5 is designed for the immersive gaming experiences, and this includes the innovative DualSense controller features as well. We believe PlayStation 5 level performance is required to achieve a great experience on big screens, and in this way we have provided a unique offering for players and creators in this current console generation. Publisher strategies are increasingly shifting towards being multi-platform, so more platforms can run the same game, which is great from a creator's perspective. Among those platforms, our mission is that we will continue to be the best place to play and publish. As such, we have empowered our creators to leverage our offering and the services to create amazing experiences. Unique experiences for players with high engagement and great monetization opportunities. We have done this consistently as the industry and competitive dynamics have evolved. PlayStation Studio and our franchises have a special role in showcasing the PlayStation experience and then strengthening the player's relationship with us. So I find some very interesting things said in here. PS5 level performance is required to achieve a great experience on big screens. That's kind of a weird thing to say, in my opinion, because you don't. That's not necessarily true, because we were playing PS4s on the big screen, and it was a pretty great experience. We were playing Xbox Ones and stuff like that. Some people were even playing Switch One on the big screen, and it was a great experience. You look at a game like Mario Kart World on a 4K HDR ready television, that's a gorgeous looking game. Like it looks great, and the colors are very popping and vibrant. So, I think that's kind of just PR talk, but kind of an interesting thing to say. And then, of course, they say we will continue to be the best place to play and publish. That is something that they actually had going on with the PlayStation 4, where when Fortnite was wanting to go and be available online for all the systems and have cross-platform play, Sony actually pushed back on that in the PlayStation 4 generation and was like, no, PlayStation 4 is the best place to play, and we're not going to do this. And then they kind of bent the knee and had to go along with it, which, of course, in the long run was probably a very smart decision. But here's where I hate the whole investors aspect of this thing, because they say unique experiences for players with high engagement. Okay, that's cool. We want unique experiences for players. We want high engagement. But great monetization opportunities, what the hell is that? Why are you saying that out loud? Like, no one wants to hear that. Nobody, no gamer, an investor probably wants to hear that because they only care about the money. But the people playing the games, the people buying the games, the people supporting the PlayStation brand, they do not want to hear, oh, we're offering great monetization opportunities, because that means they're going to nickel and dime you with microtransactions on stuff. Gamers don't want to hear you say the quiet part out loud. We know that this is a thing. We know that this is a thing that exists, but don't say it out loud, because that just looks like foolish. And I get you're trying to appeal to these investors, but you have to remember that this is all public information, and people who consume your products are going to see you say these sort of things, and they're probably not going to like it. So a bit of a non-answer as far as the third-party games, Nintendo strengthening their third-party support on the Switch 2. Basically, what I get from this is they're like, oh, well, the PlayStation 5 runs these games better. And you can't deny that that is indeed the case as far as the third-party games are considered. But is better necessarily what some people want? Some people just want convenience. If I wanted something to run as good as possible, I would play it on my PC. People like their console of choice, and they like to be able to play whatever game on there. And if there's a bit of a diminish in the visual quality of the system, if they only own that one system, then they're going to probably pick up the game anyways, because it's good enough. It looks good enough. Not every game needs to be some absolute breathtaking visual experience, as long as it looks good and runs well on a modern platform. The next thing that was brought up was some investors are also concerned that Nintendo's appeal to the younger generation could lead to market share declines for PlayStation if those younger users choose not to graduate to PlayStation as they age. What is Sony Interactive doing to increase the addressable market among younger gamers and its overall mix of users? And then Mr. Nishino said the following. The PlayStation brand and offering has resonated with a wide range of players for over 3 decades now. The number of users engaged on our platform continues to grow. By supporting such a large number of creators, we are able to provide the largest range of content available, catering to all demographics, geographics, and playstyles, etc. We believe that by constantly investing in players' relationship with the brand and our relationship with creators, we will ensure we stay close to all players' hearts throughout their lifetime. And then Captain Jackass chimes in here. Good old Herman Hulst. One of the reasons why Sony is kind of in the predicament they're in with the lack of first-party games right now that are being announced and showcased, because of the fact that he felt Concord was the next big thing. This is going to be huge. We need to buy this studio and waste a bunch of money and release the game for 2 weeks and then pull it from the marketplace because nobody gives a shit about it. But Mr. Jackass Herman Hulst said, on the first-party content side, we're also reaching to a greater range of audiences more directly, including younger players with our first-party lineup in addition to our franchises with more multi-generational fan bases, such as Marvel Spider-Man. We also have franchises that appeal to a range of different player segments. Horizon's a good example. It's very popular with female players. Okay. Astrobot has been a hit with children and adults alike. We will continue to drive engagement to PlayStation's ecosystem and brand by bringing franchises to new formats, film, television, and anime. Anime in particular is appealing to our key younger audiences, so that's going to be very helpful for us. So the solution is to combat Nintendo, and really, you know, the kiddie Nintendo mantra really extends from the Super Nintendo era. You know, that's where it was born because of the censorship. Shout outs to Howard Lincoln, dummy, censoring Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. And Nintendo has still had that smell on them for a very long time. Now, when you look at their first party games, they are definitely, for the most part, not games that are trying to target an adult demographic, whereas a lot of PlayStation first party games do target an adult demographic, and I think that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I would love to see Nintendo take a spin on a more modern sort of serious game, you know, narrative driven sort of thing. I think it could be really interesting, especially if it has a little bit of a Western influence in it. Not like a Western developer thing, but something that takes place in the West. Like, I would like to see their take on, like, America and stuff like that. I think that could be really interesting. But essentially what you're saying here is, okay, so you have Marvel Spider-Man. All right, well, we had Spider-Man 2. You were supposed to be doing a Venom game, but that seems to be on the back burner. Astrobot was a great game, one of my games of the year for last year, but it didn't really do super well in terms of software sales, especially comparative to how other PlayStation franchises have done. Horizon being good for female players, I thought we were talking about age demographics here. I didn't know we were talking about gender demographics here. So it seems like just kind of weird to me, you know, film and television and anime. Oh, we want to get into film and television and anime. I would be really interested to see, you know, something like The Last of Us, how that is helping game sales for it. Because essentially, if you're watching the show, like, you already know what's going to happen in the game. Granted, they take some liberties here and there, but you already know, like, what's going to happen in the game for the most part as far as crucial plot points are concerned. They do take liberties here and there, like I just said a few seconds ago. I don't really know why I repeated myself, but I feel like somebody that watches the show without having played the game first is never going to play the game first, or they're never going to play the game because they're obviously not interested in the game itself. They're more interested in the world and the lore about it. So while the show will make you money, I don't know if that's going to drive people to the PlayStation brand necessarily. Now, a game like Death Stranding 2 seems to be selling PlayStation 5 Pros recently, but also the PlayStation 5 Pro is on a little bit of a sale right now with the Days of Play event. I almost feel like Sony, and by extension PlayStation, is just trying to cast this wide net. I'm not quite sure that they're intimidated, though, by the Nintendo Switch 2, because I know a lot of people are going to look at this from a console fanboy perspective as far as, oh, Sony's, you know, shaking in their boots, and I'm sure dumbass Nintendo YouTubers will make videos saying things like that. But in my mind, it's like, no. Like, Sony understands and PlayStation understands that there is more than enough market space for the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2 to coexist. Even if the PlayStation 6 comes along in the next couple of years, which now there's rumors that it could be coming sooner rather than later, which I don't know how I feel about that because I'm still waiting for the PlayStation 5 generation to get started. Regardless of that, there is plenty of room for these systems. You have to remember, I come from a time frame where consoles lasted like 4 or 5 years, and then they moved on to the next thing. I also was in peak gaming mode during a time frame where there was enough room for the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, the Nintendo Wii, the Sony PSP, and the Nintendo DS. All of those systems sold well. Like, the lowest selling out of all of those systems was over 60 or 70 million, that being the PSP. Now, granted, some people have moved on to mobile devices, some people have moved on to tablets, some people have moved on to PC gaming because PC gaming has become much more accessible. But to say that all of those people have moved on, I don't think is a fair assessment. I definitely think there's more than enough room for the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2, especially with what Xbox is doing, which seems to be slowly but surely being removed from the marketplace. I don't think Sony is scared. I don't think they necessarily care all that much. I think they're focused on what they're doing, but they have to answer these questions that are given to them by these investors, because the investors are now the most important people to these companies. It's not about the consumer. It's about the person putting money into the company and expecting money to come back. But I just thought it was interesting that Sony decided to address this in the Q&A of this little investors thing that they did, and stupid Herman Hulse spoke up too. Like, shut up, dude. You should be nowhere near the limelight right now. You are a problem. You are a boil on the ass of PlayStation that needs to be popped and sent into a corner. So I'm not saying fire the guy. I'm just saying send him into a corner. Put him in an office cubicle. Be like, all right, here's a coloring book. Just color all day, because that's all you're really good at, probably. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think of this? Do you think PlayStation is intimidated by the sales success of the Nintendo Switch 2? I don't think they should be. You know, maybe look at it 6 months from now, see how everything is positioned. I'm really interested to see, you know, the next 2 or 3 months of the Nintendo Switch 2, how the system sales continue before the holiday season. You know, what sort of changes there's going to be, you know, how Nintendo is going to keep the momentum going. I think they need to do a Nintendo Direct. I mean, I know there's been a lot of games that have been announced, but a lot of games don't have release dates and stuff like that. That's kind of a video probably for tomorrow, the future of the Nintendo, or what's next for the Nintendo Switch 2. That's something I have brewing in the back of my mind. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Little update on my stepdad. I haven't done one of those in a while. I just talked to him this morning. He's now able to move his leg and foot just a little bit, but that is huge progress because it has not been working since the stroke. He's still in a rehab facility. He's been texting me a lot more. His sense of humor is back. He sent me a text, and it was like, I asked him how he was doing. He told me about his leg and foot, and then he said, come help me up from the chair when you get here, baby. And I was like, sir, I am not your baby. I am your stepson. Please don't say that to me again. And he was like, my bad. That was for my girlfriend. I was like, all right, cool. You're freaking me out there a little bit. Just sent it to the wrong person. But he seems in good spirits. Thank you guys for all your kind words. There is a GoFundMe link in the description box down below if you got a couple dollars to spare. This video has gone on for too long. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll catch you guys on the next video tomorrow. Later.